Thank you. Hello, my name is Craig Bennett and I'm the founder and owner of TechViewsNope, and today we're doing another Android tutorial, and this is Android tutorial number 18. If you haven't seen the previous ones, I highly recommend it. The card will be shown towards the top about now. And for this one, we're going to get into how layouts work in a general aspect, how to best set up things, and some cheap tricks that I came up with and that I found that might help you out. And if you know about some of this stuff or don't care about it, then feel free to skip. The card will be up there somewhere. But if you don't see the card, that means that the next video is not out yet. And please feel free to keep in mind that this will come out, the tutorial will come out once or twice a week. Now, as far as this goes, I made a total layout for one of the tests in the demonstrations, and we're going to be looking at relative layout first. So this is probably what you're going to come across when you're coming to Android. So one of the things to keep in mind with relative layout is, what does it mean? What's the difference between relative and linear layout? Relative layout, so we have a relative layout, which is, it places in a relative manner. I'll get a little bit more into this in a second. Linear layout means I place, if it's a vertical, I place an item here, then below it, so on. Horizontal, obviously left to right. So with that, with the relative layout, you can have a very customized application. Now, when we drag a object on the relative layout, you'll see arrows come out of it, the highlights of it, some numbers toward the top, and possibly if you put it in the middle, then you'll see some other stuff. Basically, it's showing you the anchor points. Based on these anchor points is based on what it will look like depending on how big or small the screen gets. Now with this, and keep in mind, I'm not going to get into how to make your application in the portrait or landscape mode only, so keep that one in mind. And the reason why I'm doing that as a totally separate video is a lot of people probably will be searching for that one thing when it comes time to seeing a whole entire video on layouts. But with this, we can tell the application to only show in portrait or landscape, or it doesn't matter. So let's throw that down, and we can see that we can flip the application to portrait or landscape. We can even change the size of the display that we're viewing it on here through here. So if we wanted to, we can actually do preview all screens, and it'll show us a generalized look of all the screens. And it may take a second or two for the stuff to load, but we can get a good idea. And you can just throw things on there if you want, and you can see it adding on there as you come across. So with this, let's go ahead and jump out of that and go to the actual application. Again, to delete the layouts themselves, one of the best methods is just hitting the delete button on the keyboard when you highlight what you want to delete. So let's move that back to, I think it was this, and tell it to remove the preview. And with this, what we have is the application we were working on. Now with this, I'm assuming that you watched the previous video where I really got into, you need to take a look at the properties. The properties on many of the objects that you throw on the design, it will change how things look and feel. For example, if I go to the spatial bar, which I'll tell you about in a second, I could say either wrap content, or I could tell a particular size. The reason why you don't want to say a particular size for most things like lettering and some other things is what would end up happening is that will potentially negatively affect your application when the size gets much bigger or much smaller in screen size for whatever device that the app's on. So with that, other things to keep in mind is the gravity. So if we take a look at this, what I have here is a submit button and a help button. The submit button I want to have on one side of the screen and the help button on the other side of the screen. What I can have is a linear layout, horizontal linear layout, so I can have the buttons left and right. But because I don't want them stacked on top of each other, what I want happen is a two linear layouts, specifically horizontal linear layouts, and that way I can tell the application to put one button on one side and one on the other. To do this, after putting the first button up there, it will naturally go to the left side. I would tell the linear layout, the first one, to go to match parent or fill parent, and then the second one, same thing, match parent as far as the width. The height on both of them, the first one should be wrap concept, the second one doesn't matter. But with the second linear layout, the horizontal linear layout inside of the other, we have a gravity, which here we can tell it to put the thing towards the right. Sorry about that. The gravity right here, which tells it to go towards the right, the center, or any other part depending on how you have things set up. So with this, I also have a scroll view, and earlier I was messing around with this for practicing purposes for this video, and I have a small screen which shows you an example of a scroll view. So with this, the scroll view is basically anything inside the scroll view you can scroll or have a scroll effect. You can have multiple scroll views inside a given design, and then on top of that you can have scroll views inside of other scroll views. It's not commonly seen, but theoretically it's possible. And Android might change the rules, but at this time I've used it once. I never really got too much of use out of it. Now you will need to have a layout inside of the scroll view so you can put things. And as we see here, let's go back into this. We have a linear layout going from top to bottom, a separator bar, which I'll show you how to make in a second, a scroll view in the middle, and then another linear layout on the bottom. So what happens is the separator bars says, hey, pay attention to this area, or it separates things, as the name states. And then on here you can actually have a scroll effect in case the screen is not big enough for all the content in there. You can tell it, here, scroll this, if the screen's not big enough. However, if the screen is big enough, then there's no purpose of a scroll effect, so you won't even see it come up. So it's a very basic thing where, like, for example, with this, if I hit menu, you'll see the scroll bar on the right side for a few seconds, and then it'll go away. Well, a similar thing happens is if it's not needed, it won't show at all. So with that, that's a pretty good example of this. And you might be wondering, all right, how did I get that gap without adding any odd things on the linear layout? What I did is margins. To do margins, let's go to the top, and you need to think of the like this. Margins basically is a padding around a given object. To do a margin per item, what you do is go to the properties, or you can type it in code. I prefer the easy way. And then you can go to, say, if I want a margin from the top portion, so if I want a gap between the your name and the separator bar, what I'll do is go to top. Oops, sorry about that. Go to margin, go to top, and let's say 200 dp. So you can see right there. And you say, oh, I want a separation between the bottom. So I want to do, say, 10 dp. You can go from there. It's pretty simple stuff. And that way you don't have to worry much about that. Now, what I would advise is, let's go to this, is have some type of margin. And what you'll find with this is I actually do have a margin for each one of these, which is 5 dp from each other. And it just makes it easier for the person to see, so it's not all bunched up and the person is just basically blurred because it's all bunched up and the person can't get the information as quick as possible. So with that, that's a big thing to keep in mind, is the margins. Let's go back to the input. And with this, what we have is, again, reiterating. We have a linear layout or a relative layout, depending on which one you want to go with, a scroll view and how that works, and then how to do tricks where you have a linear layout inside of another one to create an effect. What about this separator bar? This is another trick. There's other things you can actually use in this place, believe it or not, but it's just, I don't know, it's just something that I like to use because I have more control over it. And what you need to do is you have a bar, or you have a text, so it's just a plain text view. So let's actually make another thing, and let's just throw in here a button and then a plain text, and then with here I want that to fill, and I want to only have that as 8 dp, so it forces it to be that. I'm gonna grab the hex code from that, go down to background, and let's go to text, and there you go. That's as simple as this is, and you just copy and paste. It's just this line of code. In fact, you don't even need the ID. So it's that simple, because the background, basically what this says is make the background this color. We want to fill the width, and then we want to say the height. If we have a wrap height, then what would happen is it'll fill the width, but it'll be literally not even a pixel across. So what you need to keep in mind with this is, if you don't have text, you got to define the actual height. If we're separator bars, I like to use 8. Use whatever's comfortable for you. Again, there's actual things out there, but I have more control over this. And with this, you can pick the height you want. Again, to delete that, best way to is just hit the delete key. But again, the best thing to do is take a look at your layout, see if you're happy with it, and you can go through here, do a preview to see all this. In another video, I'm going to get into how to prevent your application from going from a landscape to a portrait, or stick it with one or the other. And that way, say for example, with something like the horizontal, like let's take a look at this. If we tell it to go to landscape, then we can see if it looks good or not. In this case, it's actually not that bad. Or we can go to portrait and see what that looks like. And I personally like the landscape a little bit more, but for something like this, I would give the user choice. But anyways, with that in mind, this has been Craig Bennett, the founder and owner of TechView Snip. And if you found this video helpful, then leave a like, subscribe, share, check out our Patreon, and donate there to help these educational videos keep coming out. But also, if you have any questions or want to add anything into here, then please feel free to leave that in the comment section, and I'll take a look at that and try to get back to you as quickly as possible. Have a good day.